Hi everyone. I wanted to take a moment to make sure that I tell you about my project. My name is Jabri, and the basic idea behind my project is that I wanted to find out more about um, jailbreaking AI prompts. So essentially, prompts that users input to get AI models to push out data that they otherwise should not. So, I focused on some of the historic prompts, historic meaning that they were made a couple of years ago and not really so relevant today because many of the AI developers have made changes such that these prompts are really no longer helpful for the newer models, but we know that there are still many applications that are still using older versions of the various models, i.e. GPT 3.5. So with that said, what I wanted to do was do some analysis on these prompts because what is missing in terms of what I have seen so far is a formula on how to create a successful prompt that actually uh, breaks the system. Now, this is not a trivial, not breaks the system, but leaks sensitive data. This is not a trivial task by any means. Mostly because in many cases the people who are creating these prompts are working in a kind of black box environment in that we're kind of just guessing and checking to see what's going on the inside of these models. Depending on how they're created, the creators themselves of the developers of these models themselves may not be able to kind of give a 100% answer of what the output of any given input would be. So with that said, a lot of this is kind of guess and check. And I was just wondering if we could do better, really. And so part of doing better is doing some analysis on the prompts that have been generated thus far and that have been successful to see if maybe we can analyze any patterns. So currently what I'm trying to do, and you'll see this, is really just generate insights on how these prompts work. And I didn't really, in searching, I didn't really see too much information on I mean, there was some information, but I didn't see a lot of like statistical analyses or overall summaries of the precise techniques that work that get these prompts to be successful. And so I wanted to dig into that and do a better job of identifying what patterns exist amongst the prompts. So there are definitely some limitations of this tool, but I'm looking forward to your feedback. The algorithms that I'm using are relatively rudimentary. There's definitely some like statistics and like knowledge that I could benefit from in terms of identifying which statistical tools would be most appropriate for kind of identifying the patterns that I'm looking for. But I ultimately settled on doing some frequency analyses and then also just highlighting some information that might be relevant. So, for instance, well, we'll get there. And then I have another rudimentary way of identifying like prompt engineering patterns, but again, I'll give you more information once we get there. So, scrolling down here, running this project is relatively straightforward in terms of a simple Python project, which many of us have used so far. So you've probably either created a project like this or rated a project like this thus far in the class. You're going to install Python and pip if needed, create your virtual environment, activate your virtual environment, and install the requirements as needed. Okay, so let's move on here. Okay, so you can do all of this in the terminal. I like to use VS Code. Let's go ahead and run this, which with a simple Python 3 and analysis.py. Go ahead and press enter. Okay, you can supply the file path to a CSV file of your choice, but it should include at least two columns, which is the prompt and the whether or not the jailbreak was successful. But I would say probably best to just stick to these prompts here, these two CSV files. If I don't want to type in a long path, I could use the default and just press enter, and it's running. It's taking a few seconds, and it's done. Okay, so now the results are appearing in this little HTML file here. Let's go ahead and take a look, which I've preloaded, and here we go. So again, this is just kind of my quick rough draft here of my idea here. So right now, we are doing three things. We are identifying the longest words, strings without spaces, to identify what exactly here. Like, is this a long string of code? Like, just to highlight some of the more interesting choices that the prompts might use in order to break the system. Okay. In my experience, it just seems like these long strings tend to be particularly interesting. High-frequency words, this doesn't look particularly important. Like, a lot of these are common English words until you get to Dan, which I believe stands for, in my research, do anything now, something along those lines here. So that's kind of interesting that this appears a relatively large number of times. So this seems like this was a particularly successful technique, just going by frequency analysis alone. And then this prompt pattern. Now this is the most important piece. Ideally, what this is all about is just finding a way to identify patterns in the prompt engineering. So I went online and found a few techniques, common techniques that are used in prompt engineering: context amplification, reframing. Let's see, another one that I used was information retrieval. And there's two more, but I can't remember what they were on the top of the head. Created a hash table using ChatGPT to generate that hash table of like key signal words that indicate context amplification or reframing. Yeah. And so basically, as the program iterates through, each word in the prompt, if it matches up with one of the signal words, it will identify that as the category of prompt engineering that's currently being used. So as it iterates through one particular prompt, the first prompt, it found the word purpose, so it said, okay, the prompt starts off using context amplification. And then later on, it found the word detail, so it says, okay, this is further context amplification. Then it found the word tone, so it moved on and determined that, okay, now it's using reframing as part of this prompt engineering process. Now, again, this is not perfect, because, for instance, it's just looking at the word in isolation, not looking at the context. But I didn't really find a good way to automate this without, having to use some AI tokens to analyze the whole context. So I just wanted to come up with an automated way of doing this. And then also, it doesn't identify the pattern in every case. So I am really looking forward to your feedback here. And I think that I've covered everything. Covered the limitations. I'm just doing my mental check here. Overview, limitations, why this is important. I've told you how to run this program, and giving you a little bit of a demo. So that is it. And again, really looking forward to your feedback.